I'm a South African. My name is Nomfundo Walaza, and previously I worked for the Trauma Center for Survivors of Violence and Torture as a psychologist. So my background really gives me a sense of how women have been destroyed by some of the happenings. We realize that South Africa has been rated one of the most violent places. I think in South Africa, as you know, within the constitutional imperative of our country, there is a very clear notion that there should be about 50-50 representation of women in decision making, particularly within the government, which is written in law and it's supposed to be something that gets done. But interestingly enough, as we came out of this recent election, it so happened that the party, which is the ANC that is in power, had, elected in terms of premiers of the provinces across the country, men, and then there's only one woman, and there was an outcry. And I must say we've made tremendous strides because within our government there's lots of representation of women. But for me, it's not about the numbers, you see. It's about what those women are allowed to do or allow themselves to do, or what kind of positions they take and what kind of voice they assume within those decisions. Because you can have a situation where we've got 10 males and 10 females. And if the females are not speaking, you might just as well not have the 50-50% quota. It doesn't mean anything in number. It means something in terms of how those women conduct themselves within that context of representation. We need to be supportive of those women we put in power, because sometimes it's a lonely space to be in power within a context that doesn't really accept you as being a decision maker. And then you've got your sisters who are not next to you to support you and tell you that in actual fact your movement is ours, your success is ours, what you have achieved is actually what we feel very proud of. So we salute you, but we will also support you and make sure that you go forward. I joined the Desmond Tutu Peace Center, where I worked for 7 years as a CEO, again on peace building, but also focusing on women in peace building and understanding how central it is that we can only solve Africa's problem to empowering women. But also we need to empower the men, because when you empower women without empowering the men, you actually set the women up, because then they get abused as a way of a man saying, I'm the breadwinner, who the hell do you think you are? So it's important that we actually look at that as one of the pillars of how we can solve the problem of women abuse in our society and globally. Because the essence is that we can only solve wars and destruction if we can allow the voices of women to be heard, and also if we can learn from the wisdom and that women bring into the table, which is different from the wisdom that men bring, because we all socialize differently, and we've got something to bring that changes the dynamics of relationships, that changes the dynamics of dialogue and how peace is conceptualized. I'm very much aware that my country comes here, or I come here as a representative of my country, and we don't have a NEP. And I ask myself why? Because South Africa is usually seen as one of those leading countries in Africa, and yet in this area we have not made good of the promise of Resolution 1325. So we need to get back and be able to interact with our government and say we have to get this going, because it's important. It's important not only for the country, it's important for the security of our women, it's also important for humanity. It's important for the generations that come that will benefit from this, because sometimes we do things not for ourselves, but for others. But I can't wait to get home and get us started on what our NEP story will be for the world.